Folks, welcome to owlmortgage.ca. I've been so happy that Zoe has asked me to sit down with her to answer some questions about owlmortgage.ca, about me.
Yep.
We just met at the Centum Vision Conference
right.
not too long
Yep.
ago for the first time.
Yes.
Really hit it off.
Yes.
And here we are
Yeah.
for an interview, and I'm being interviewed.
Thank you so much for
Oh,
your
you're
time,
welcome.
Vince. I know you're very busy. I really appreciate it.
Busy doing what?
Mortgages. Approved, right?
Oh boy, I wish.
But yeah, thank you very much. It was a pleasure to meet you at Vision. I've heard a lot about you, so I'm very interested to get to learn more about what I would like to say is an industry legend.
Uh-oh.
I know that you shy away from that term, but I feel it's applicable because you say Vince Gaetano and people know exactly who you are. So the industry is small, but you're very recognizable. So in my mind, that's a legend.
Well, 19 years on TV will do that.
Yes, well.
That for sure. But I'm humbled. Legend to me seems like I'm close to being dead.
No, never.
But
Legend's
I
eternal.
appreciate that.
Thank you. You're welcome. So, Vince, I know that you're a big family man. What does family mean to you?
Family's paramount. Family is something that everyone needs a foundation from. Like if you have everything going well at the family level, everything else is easy.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's one of the three sides of a triangle. Work, health, and family. But family during COVID was a struggle.
Yeah.
A lot of people need social engagement. We're social animals. That interaction with friends, family came to a halt to a degree, and it had a toll. It really impacted many people, including my family. And it's also created a reality that we need to make it a priority.
Yes. Yeah.
And during COVID, I made a career change, realizing that I had to make that priority.
Yeah.
And I'm really happy that I did.
So talk to me about that career change. What was the catalyst?
Listen, I was at Monster Mortgage for 19 years. We had a fantastic run. I really enjoyed my time there, but what I realized is I think I became stale.
Okay.
I needed a new challenge.
Right.
I wanted to go in a different direction and try something new with social media. I wanted to really stress education, financial literacy. And I think the time was perfect. I think, life throws you curveballs and you got to be able to adjust. And I thought it was just the perfect time to move on from, the whole TV role and do something different.
Okay. And so talk to me a little bit about, you chose OWL. Why OWL Mortgages?
Owl to me is an interesting animal. It is, the owl itself its characteristics are really interesting because it sees things that others don't.
Okay.
Right? It seeks danger. It understands where there are threats. And I really see the owl as an educator. I always remember the Owl magazine as a kid where there was Chickadee and then you move up to Owl, and it was very educational. And I felt that the owl itself is the wise educator.
Yeah.
And I wanted to play off of that as being very educational focused.
Yeah.
We want to point out to clients what they don't see in mortgages, those clauses and contracts that they have to be concerned about, and try to really help them navigate through all the pitfalls of mortgage financing, home buying, home savings, creating wealth.
Yeah.
And just stay away from the dangers that are out there that unfortunately people can get caught up in.
Totally. I think people get very wrapped up in this bottom line number, but they forget to pull back and look at it, from that 10,000 feet view and see what does that actually, what is what's in the fine print?
You make a very good point, Zoe. And first-time buyers, over the years, and I've been doing this a long time, it's decades, right? First time buyers just want the keys
Yeah.
and want to know what my mortgage payment is.
Yeah.
That's it. Those are
Yeah.
the two things.
But that's
Everything
an
else,
emotional thing,
everything
right?
else you tell them
Yeah.
in one ear out the other, they don't really give a shit, right?
They just want the house.
When do I get the keys? When do I move in?
Yeah, right.
And 5 years is a long time for a mortgage
Yes.
term, right? A lot
Yeah.
can happen. So what we try to do is hone in on what is important. Prepayment clauses, flexibility in your mortgage. What are you planning to do? And making sure that the product itself is aligned with what their game plan is.
Yes.
5 years is a long time. People could get married, have a couple kids, go through an 18-month mat leave with limited income. And these are things we point out to people when they're making these decisions so they could really understand exactly what they're going to go through for the next 5 years. COVID was 2020, March of 2020. Everybody doesn't realize it wasn't that long ago. It's only 2.5 years ago.
Yeah.
And 5 years is a hell of a lot of time. So we try to put some perspective in that. We try to educate, help them along, and help them plan what the next step is.
Yes.
So they fully are aware of what options they're going to have available to them.
So it sounds to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you're more in the mortgage strategy business versus mortgage sales. Because it's a strategy based on the information that they're giving you. Like maybe their goal is to have children, or maybe their goal is to buy a rental property or an investment property in 6 years. So you will then find the appropriate product that will help them achieve that goal.
That's the game plan.
Yeah.
We also deal with a lot of self-employed people. We deal with a lot of subprime clients, and helping them rehabilitate, helping them get to the next graduated stage, whether it's going from private to Alt-A, Alt-A to prime. What we're trying to do is we're trying to create the stepping stones for them to get there.
Right.
And let them understand their situation. Sometimes self-employed people need to really hear that it's not that bad. Give your accountant a hug. He's made you tax efficient.
Right. Yeah.
So take advantage of that. These prime rates are for people that pay optimum taxes, especially now with the stress test and where prices are in GTA. So maybe you save a little bit more and you opt for an alternative type solution that gives you some flexibility on the income side.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and that's the thing. Not every mortgage is for every client. That's why there are so many different products. There are so many different underwriting policies, because there are so many different scenarios that clients fall into. But ultimately, you're the subject matter expert. You're the one that they come to in order for them to be placed in the best option for their current position.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. But at the same time, I don't think we have to overcomplicate this process.
No.
This is a very simple process.
Yes.
Understand the need, set a proper expectation,
Right.
and let people understand that if you want true value in this process, you have to give me all the information in order for me to give you the right answer.
Yeah.
So we try to do a lot of front-end investigations, validations, document collection, so that way we don't leave any stones unturned and have problems down the road when we can't validate certain things.
Well, by doing that, you're ensuring that their experience is a positive one, because you know what you're up against, all the information, and you are able to present it to the appropriate lender in the appropriate way in order to get the approval, versus scrambling and then having to swap lenders at the 11th hour, and then the client has this, horrible experience. And of course, they rarely will take the accountability that, oh, I didn't tell them about, the separation agreement I have, or whatever. But it's really good to hear that you're doing the due diligence up front, because while it might be a little bit more work, it means in the long run that you're having more consistently positive experiences for your clients.
Absolutely. This industry is plagued with a lot of bad actors, right? And the reality is when people don't do that, they create problems. And having the high profile I have, I tend to attract people that have gone through a bad experience, and I have to be the cleanup guy.
Yes.
Right? And I just don't put up with it. Right? I say, listen, at the end of the day, you should have came here first.
Right.
And I think what we're going to see in the next little bit is a transition to more efficient, more productive, and quality-oriented mortgage brokers, because these newbies that aren't doing it right are creating a lot of hiccups in the process, a lot of bad experiences with clients, that they're going to go back to their bank. They're going to go back to the mortgage specialist at the branch level.
Yeah.
And we're not setting a good first impression, and it creates a problem for the industry.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a bit of that chicken or the egg issue
Yes,
that we're
agreed.
having. It's we know there's a large knowledge gap. You have to go and work with a lot of offices. You need experience, but to get the experience, you need to work with an office. But people won't take you on if you're new. So it's a very challenging problem, and unfortunately it's not a new one. But I think ultimately, we, like for yourself, who has been in this industry for such a long time, I'm sure that you've taken on agents on your team that you have had the ability to train and get them into the right sort of habits. Talk to me about habits. What are some of your like regular things that you do on a daily basis or on a weekly basis in order to create your success, or that has created your success?
I think it has to do with consistency. You have to have a process. You have to follow your process, be firm on how you behave with your client. And, I always look at it as, how can you best serve that client? Right? If you follow these processes and do what you need to do up front, everything becomes a lot easier. I always kind of shrug my shoulders when somebody just says, oh, I got this application, this is what I'm looking at. Well, that's not enough.
Yeah.
Today, there's so many factors in a decision.
Yeah.
Lenders are becoming more particular on how they want their data, how they want their information sent to them. They want accuracy. They want every field completed.
Yeah.
When you say, hey, Vince, do you think we could do this deal on this house?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Like it's so
vague.
general and vague that you can't really come up with anything. And I just feel that everybody's still looking for shortcuts. And there's no shortcuts in this game.
No.
Right?
No.
It's very simple. It's a simple industry. People need money. You find a solution, you deliver that money.
Right.
In order to do that, you need all the information.
Right.
So follow a process. And if you're consistent in that, this business is easy. Where people fall and where people struggle is they don't want to do all the little things.
Yeah, I think that what you're describing requires a lot of discipline.
Yes.
So where does your discipline come from?
Discipline, if you want to be successful in this business, you have to be disciplined. You have to follow protocols. You have to follow processes, because usually, I'm a big disciple of E-Myth, Michael Gerber's book, and it's simply about process.
Right.
Document your process, follow it through,
Right.
and just continuously do the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
You will streamline your craft.
Yeah.
You look for efficiencies.
Yeah.
You talk to your lenders, and you find out what are their pain points.
Right.
How can you solve their pain points? There's at least every quarter we have conversations with our lenders, our underwriters, our admin people, and say, what are your pain points?
Right.
Is it down payment? How do you want it packaged?
Right.
What can I make your job easier so my file goes to the top? Those conversations don't happen often. And when you have them, lenders are surprised.
Yes.
Why are you calling me? Wow, Vince, that's pretty cool.
Well, I was just about to say, as a former underwriter I've been in this industry, I would say 20 years. I was underwriting for probably 12. I have never had a proactive phone call from an account coming to me saying, what can I do better? It would usually be me reaching out to them or the BDM reaching out and saying, hey, going forward, would you mind doing this? So the fact that you're taking that accountability and the ownership is phenomenal. And speak to me about some of the results that you're seeing by taking this ownership and accountability with the lenders.
I believe in, and you can only rub the lamp 3 times for favors. When we ask for exceptions at a lender, I always make sure we're not asked for too many.
Right.
Because when you exceed that 3 number, you become a problem.
Yeah.
Every deal's an exception. Whereas if you limit it to 3 and they're really good exceptions, you have a lot of credibility with that underwriting team, underwriting manager, the VP of credit or whatever. And you're going to be listened to and you're going to be given the benefit of the doubt. When every deal's an exception, you're a problem. You're a challenge account. Because I used to be a lender,
Yeah, yeah.
right? So I put my lender hat on. When I can explain the hair on the deal up front and support it with the pros of that deal, I'm not hiding anything.
No, you're mitigating the file.
You're mitigating the file, and I think there's not enough of that anymore.
No, there isn't, because I don't feel that it's something that I think the underwriters take on a lot of that responsibility. I think underwriters do that for brokers because brokers have gotten used to them doing that. But as a former underwriter, I can say that if you sent a file in and you did everything, that file would be approved and I won't be going over it with a fine tooth comb. But as you know, if you don't, then that's when that underwriter gets a fine tooth comb and writes that list of 15 things.
I tell everybody on my team, our underwriter is writing our paychecks.
Yeah.
Okay. So they're helping you make your commission. They're helping you earn your referral fees, your volume bonuses, or whatever. Treat them with respect.
Yeah.
Ask them what they need, how they like to see their file.
Yeah.
When we switched over with Scotiabank from one business manager to another, we sat down with that RBM or BRM and said, okay, Chris, how do you like your files packaged? How do you want them presented? Do you want everything up front? What income do you prefer?
Yeah.
So all of a sudden we tweaked our process to appease him, right? We do that with all our lenders that we do a significant amount of business. When we deal with a new lender, we have to learn. We have to understand how they do things. And we're adjusting, we're adapting, we're tweaking our process to say, okay, so if this is going to go to RMG, for example, how do they like seeing their files?
Yeah.
Do they have more flexibility in this regard over that regard?
Yeah.
And you start learning. And that learning that we collect, we adapt to our process and then hopefully be efficient for them.
Yeah. Well, you've mentioned learning a number of times in our conversation so far. And I'm sensing that like education and teaching your clients is something that's exceptionally important to you. And it's, it ties back to that owl symbol. What are some of the benefits that you've seen on a business scale for providing that level of education that some other brokers may not?
Wow, that's a big question. I think you have to use different mediums, right, to educate. I've chosen social media and came about it in a very odd way. Doing TV all the time and for 19 years. I didn't realize how limited I was in my education. I was very controlled, and you don't realize it till you're out of it. You're in a
bit of a vortex about
it. You're in a system where you got 15-minute segments in that hour. There's 4 of them. There's 6-minute commercial packs. There's 3 people on the panel. Everybody's got about 3 minutes. They try to average out the time. Mortgages always tend to get a little bit more because it's the hot topic of the day. But you always have somebody pissing in your ear saying you got 15 seconds to commercial.
Yeah, it's really relaxing,
wrap it up.
right?
So you got to be general. You can't really educate. So, my son sat me down, who's an influencer. I've seen him grow and deal with the social media in such a way that, wow, this is unbelievable. I can't believe it. He said, Dad, stop doing TV.
Yeah.
And I said, what do you mean? I help educate people and it's an educational program. He goes, Dad, nobody my age knows what a cable bill is. Get on social media. And I had no idea what to do.
Yeah.
And he basically said, he goes, Dad, he said, think of the Back to the Future movie. Everybody my age wants to deal with people their age.
Right.
But nobody has the experience you have.
Yes.
So if you can lose the suit, dress down.
Yeah. Become relatable.
Don't talk down to me.
Yeah.
Empathize and educate and don't judge.
Yeah.
You will have an audience that will want to learn, will take your advice, and whatever you do, Dad, don't talk about mortgages.
Mortgages aren't sexy.
He said, nobody cares about a mortgage. And he didn't use that language. He said, nobody gives a shit about a mortgage. Nobody wakes up wanting to get a mortgage today. Okay? They want a house. They want a home.
Yeah.
So talk about how to get them to that home ownership goal. how to save money,
Yeah.
how the process works, how they should be making sure their credit's in line,
Yeah.
pay their bills, because it's a journey.
Yeah.
It's not something that should happen in a month or 2
Yeah.
months. It's a long journey, and I think patience is so important today
Yeah.
because everybody wants it tomorrow. And some
Yes.
people can't have it tomorrow, so
No.
they're upset, right? And not everybody deserves to be a homeowner today.
No.
They have to work their way to get there.
Yes.
And our goal is to help them get there
Right.
through education, through financial literacy, to engagement on topics that may be foreign to them. It could be the tax-free savings account, it could be RSPs, it could be the new program introduced by the feds at the last budget with the savings account, home ownership savings account. These are all great tools to help young people start planning their journey to home ownership.
And I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. It's like it might be a no, but it's not a no, it's a not now. So it's a case sometimes where the clients, they feel in their heart they're ready, but you look at the documents or you look at where they are positioned and they're just not there yet. So having those conversations about, okay, you know, we understand that this is what you want, let me help you get there. Because I think that when people get told no, they can get very discouraged. But it sounds to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you're really good at pivoting with those conversations and giving them a plan and saying, so you want to get to home ownership, these are the steps you need to take in order to achieve that.
Not only are you correct in that aspect, but it's also existing homeowners.
Right.
Okay, we've had cases where people are in over their heads, and you have to have the honest conversation with them and say, you're over leveraged.
Yeah.
You can't afford this house.
It's tough.
It is tough, but it's the best thing you could do.
Right.
They might not like it, but the reality is I get to sleep at night. And we had cases most recently, beginning of May, a lady came in here who was on the verge of being evicted. And we assessed her situation and we said, you know what, Ruth? You got to sell these homes.
Yeah.
You got a rental that's upside down. You have all these mortgages. You only make X. All your payments are X plus Y. You're upside down.
Yeah.
You can't be a pensioner
Yeah.
driving an Uber 6 days a week, 13 hours a day. Like, doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so him and Vince, I don't know, I really like my house. You can't afford it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so on Monday, she comes in with a writ of possession. And she's upset because the lender changed the locks on her house and she doesn't have a house. And she slept in her car for 2 nights.
Jeez.
Okay,
It's hard.
so it's uneasy.
Yeah.
It is difficult to comprehend because you feel sorry for the individual.
Yeah.
But we gave her the right advice.
Yes.
And it was an emotional decision for her that she couldn't make for
Yeah.
whatever reason.
Yeah.
She stalled on her decision making.
Yeah.
6 weeks ago, when this first came to our attention, we could have helped her. We gave her the plan to do it, but she chose not to. And the worst case scenario happened.
Yeah.
And it's sad.
Yeah.
It really is sad. But all we could do is educate,
Yes.
provide the best options for people to make the right decisions.
Yeah.
And sometimes the best decisions are the hardest decisions to make.
Yeah.
And we got to try to push through to that. People don't want to take that advice. I think we've done our job. They move on and they go into a world where they need to hear what they want to hear.
Right.
May not be
Denial.
the best advice,
Yeah.
but I can't do anything about that.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, honesty and integrity are very important to you.
Extremely.
And so with that in mind, when you were looking to partner with a brand, what was it specifically about Centum that drew your attention?
Chris Turcotte.
Chris Turcotte.
Chris is a wonderful soul, high integrity, honest,
Yeah.
and I truly believe he wants to help everybody.
Yeah.
And he was the first individual in this space of people always trying to sell value propositions.
Right.
To sit down and ask, Vince, what can I do for you to help you grow your
Right.
business? What are your pain points? What do you need that can help you achieve your goals? when you hear something like that, you're kind of taken aback because
Yeah.
you're always bracing yourself for the
Yeah.
sales pitch.
Right.
And there was no sales pitch.
Yeah.
And it was a very relaxing conversation where you let your hair down and you let people know what your troubles are,
Yeah.
where you need your help. And he was able to take that information over a very long meal, which he still talks about.
I heard it was very
And-
cheap too.
and you know, he came up with a solution,
Right.
with no strings attached.
Yeah.
And I really stress the no strings attached, because I think he was genuinely eager to assist.
And how, like, when you had that conversation and when he was in that problem-solving space, not in a selling space with, you know, coming to you with solutions with no strings attached, how did that make you feel? Because to your point, you're used to bracing yourself for the hard sell, and here is some, you know, the president of the brand, of Centum, the brand, not doing that. How was it? Explain how you felt in that moment.
You know what, Zoe? There was no catch
Yeah.
that I was having to look for.
Right.
I think that would be the best way to explain it. It was an honest offer to help.
Right.
And when somebody says, listen, if you're not happy, don't worry about it. We shake hands, let's be friends.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And how can you say no to something like that? I think anybody who is eager to grow and pivot to success, if you have that offer to you, you just can't say no.
Yeah. So speaking of growth in Centum, what has Centum done to help you grow your business?
At 52 years old, switching to social media is not easy.
Yes. Yeah.
It's new. It's very
Daunting.
not daunting. It's just complex
Yeah.
for someone who likes things in simple terms. But you know, the encouragement, the
Right.
support from marketing and Chris himself
Yeah.
to just say, hey, just keep on doing what you're doing. Be
Yeah.
be authentic.
Yeah.
You know, my son was also encouraged by Chris to get going, and it helped him propel to where he is.
Wow.
It just really providing me the framework to come up with the concepts I have and supporting them.
Yeah.
And I think Chris has something that most don't have, and that is a youthful eagerness and excitement to move in new territories that
Yeah.
others
Yeah.
always seem afraid of. And I'll tell you, that was the hardest thing for me is the transition from
Yeah.
TV to social media, and having the help from Chris, having the help from my son, who pushed me into it and said, just put the content out. You
Yeah,
got the
yeah,
content,
yeah.
and be authentic, and don't worry about the flashy logos and
Yeah,
spinning
yeah.
things on 3D images on your posts. Just do
Yeah.
simple stuff, and it's really worked out well.
Well, Chris, I really feel Chris is everybody's like biggest cheerleader, and he gives you that space to play with ideas, and he gives you the opportunity to let you see, to run with an idea and see where it goes. And even if it doesn't go anywhere, you know, failure still gives you valuable lessons. So I think that's what, personally, I find very unique with him as a lender. He's very much a yes and person, whereas previously, in some leaders rather, I experienced like no but. Like, that's a good idea, but we can't do that. Whereas Chris is very much like, okay, run with that. Where does that go? Where is that going to take you? And it encourages you to try it. And even if it doesn't succeed, at least you've learned, okay, well, that's not an option for me. So I think that's one of his like very unique talents.
Well, he also has surrounded himself with a wonderful team that is very family oriented.
Yes.
With Caroline and Jeff, you know, I could pick up the phone at any time and they'll pick it up, and
Yeah.
we could talk about everything other than business before we get to business.
Right.
And that's very unique. In such a short time, we built a very unbelievable trust amongst each other. And you know, I'm always happy to help Centum brokers, owners, and whatnot. If whatever I could do to assist, I always try to give back. And I think that's the one thing that Chris has always done. Never told us to do it, but I always see him practicing it. Is give it, pay it forward.
Yeah.
Help, give without expecting anything in return. And one of the books that he's referred to me was The Giver.
Okay, so Vince, you have to level with me. It can't have just been Chris that attracted you to Centum or piqued your interest. Can you tell me what were some other factors about the brand?
Well, our brokerage at the time was always independent.
Right, okay.
Right? We were never aligned with any network at all. And one of the things that was very interesting is being part of a network and tapping into my peers. And in joining Centum, I got to meet some wonderful folks, Enzo Venuto, Jimmy Hansra, Ann Brill, and many others that, we get to have leadership calls, and we never had that before.
Right.
And just learning from others, their best practices, and understanding what their pain points are in their markets across the country was always really intriguing to me. Like having to meet Clinton Wilkins out in Halifax and having conversations with him. He came to our office at the time, and he was getting into that CRM with Salesforce. It was just a really interesting dynamic that we never had before. Is that collaboration with like-minded individuals trying to achieve the same thing. And I think Centum's doing a really good job putting those heads together at these these leadership calls, leadership meetings, and helping everybody with their business. And trying to find new ways of improving processes, new ways of generating revenue, finding new referral sources. I really am enamored at the amount of effort that's being placed on collaboration. And I've always been a big fan of co-opetition. It's a term where you cooperate with your competitors, and none of these colleagues cross over in my business. Everybody tends to be so protective of their space, but the reality is we don't cross over on our clients. There's too much business out there that there's very rare an occasion where you're cross-referencing the same client. So, I always have a hands-off approach. If a client's dealing with another broker that I know, I'll say, listen, you're dealing with somebody, you're in good hands. You don't need me. We have the same lenders, same products. It's really personality, and they're a good person. So deal with them.
Well, I mean, that speaks volumes, because a lot of people would not do that. So that goes back to your core values of honesty, integrity. You identify that a client is already with a quality broker, so you're not going to go and try to take that broker's client because, and correct me if I'm wrong, you would expect the same level of respect from them.
You are correct. And one thing I always think about is you have one chance to make a good first impression with a client. And for that client using a mortgage broker for the first time, when they're dealing with a lot of people in this space that are new, it's tough to have a good first impression all the time. So we have to do our part in making sure that experience is a positive one. You want them to come back. I pride myself in the fact that my clients seek me out. They find me on Instagram, they find me on TikTok, they find me on LinkedIn, and they call and they say, hey Vince, you dealt with me at the old place, can you help me again? I said, hey, if you found me, great. But if you're happy, all your data is at Monster, and you got good people there that can help you. But if you need help, I got to start over. And that's one thing I pride myself in is working in a way that I could sleep at night and with high integrity.
I mean, I have to really commend you, because that it's a beautiful quality to have.
Thank you.
And it's not an easy one to uphold. It requires.
Well, when you're in a dog-eat-dog world, it does make it tough. But at the end of the day, there's enough business out there for everybody. Not every client's a good client for me. Some are great, some I prefer not to deal with. And that's just being honest. I just think some people have the wrong expectations that I just can't deliver. And if it can't be a win-win for both yourself and the client, that's probably a relationship not worth having.
I agree 100%. I'm going to go back a little bit to your comment about Centum making an effort to bring business owners together so that they can share ideas. and thoughts and best practices. When when you're in those meetings, having come from an independent where you didn't have those, tell me how those meetings made you feel.
Inclusive.
Yeah.
Valued. I've been happy to share my success with people.
Right.
I've been happy to help people navigate through social media that are worried about entering that space for the first time. You know, a lot of these leaders have a lot of experience, and if you can transfer that knowledge into stories, I think you have a real winner in the social media world. I think everybody's looking for a story. Everybody's looking for good experience, quality individuals, professionalism, and you have it. It's all in your head. You just got to share it.
Yeah.
And I think making that leap to this medium is hard. But if you have the support, you have people that have done it.
Yeah.
Like, it was hard for me.
Yeah.
Like, at this age, it's so hard to. I'm telling you, I used to sweat. And people would say, well, Vince, you just do TV. How hard can it be? Well, at first it was tough.
Yeah, it's a different beast.
You're talking by yourself.
Yeah.
And
right.
you know, you get used to it, and you start realizing once you see the engagement going, it becomes a powerful, powerful little
motivator.
Yeah, it is. It's a lot of fun.
And I'm sensing a lot of pride when you speak about your journey through social media.
You know what? I am really proud of it. I think our group has been really encouraged by it. I think it's great to finish a show and having somebody on the team saying, that was a really good show.
Yeah.
That was a good segment. That was a good guest. And it doesn't cost anything.
No. Yeah.
Right? It's something where you could really see how it could grow into something that could start providing some tangible business and some tangible leads. And when you start seeing the closings, it becomes even more fulfilling because you're realizing that the effort that you put in is paying off. And it doesn't happen immediately. And that's where I think the discipline helps. You got to be consistent. That's one thing my son always said, Dad, just be consistent.
Yeah.
Do it every week at a certain time. People get used to it. I'm always prideful. I'm full of pride when I put my countdown and people click my countdown because they're saving it because they want to be notified that I'm on. That's a big deal for me because I'm thinking, wow, somebody's really looking forward to hearing me. So it gets me jacked up to provide good content. So I dig deep into research. I do a lot of information gathering on the week, on the issues at hand, what's current, and try to make sure that the information I'm providing is useful. It provides good insight, and it helps them with decision making and get a good grasp of what's going on in the marketplace.
So they leave with something ultimately.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because I mean, everybody's time is valuable, and the fact that you're getting their time 90 seconds, 2 minutes, however long it is, you're giving them something that they can apply, and that's going to be what keeps making them come back.
Yeah, and the other aspect of it is the dark side. The dark side is when you put yourself out in social media, you're exposing yourself to the good and the bad. And there's a lot of people that hide behind veils, like anonymous accounts that will be hateful, be hurtful, try to make you feel bad. And what you have to realize is that's part of the game. I wouldn't let it get to you. I learned that seeing the comments that my son would get. When you have millions of followers, it's magnified to a level where it's like, hold on, this is a little bit off color, a little bit concerning. But he's the one who taught me. He says, Dad, this is part of the game. And you can't let it get to you because usually those people have more issues with themselves than with you.
I was just about to say, hurt people.
Yeah, and that took a bit of getting used to. And I had a couple, I said something controversial this week, and a few people made some interesting comments. They said, hey, you know what, that's kind of funny, good for you. And listen, let's see how it works out. But you just got to have a canned response where you got to realize it's just water off a duck's back.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, right? Like often it's just trying to create the.
Don't fall for it.
Yeah. So, Okay, so let's switch gears a little bit and talk about OWL and your clients and your brokers. So what is it? So we've discussed a lot of how you provide a lot of value in regards to training and education with your clients. What else keeps them coming back?
I think honesty, sound advice, a plan.
Yes.
I really think that there's an opportunity with the OWL mortgage client to build wealth with real estate. I think real estate's a very solid long-term play.
Right.
I know it hasn't been the case in the last little while in the market we're in, and people are a little bit cynical of real estate, the affordability issue and all that. But I think for those that have real estate, I think you have to have a plan. And one of those main principles at OWL is get to zero as quickly as you can.
Yeah.
And one of the main messages I always tell my clients is, if you could get rid of your debt at a quicker pace, you have less to worry about when rates go up.
Right.
And the example I always use is, if you have a $200,000 mortgage and you're paying 5%, try to get it to $100,000 before it hits 10%.
Right.
The interest cost is exactly the same, and it's manageable.
Right.
And people need to understand how amortization schedules work. They need to understand the tools within that mortgage contract that allows them to accelerate repayment and see the benefit of it.
Right.
Yeah. Right. And I think for the longest time, rates have always been low. People haven't really given a shit about it. But now that rates have propelled up, I think it provides a tremendous opportunity to pound that message home.
Totally.
And make it more, it will resonate a lot more now than ever.
Totally. Well, I think you said something really important pertaining to real estate investment. It's a long game.
It is a long game.
And with the rise that we've seen, this exponential growth that's been, record growth year over year, that hasn't been the case usually. So I think that while there's a leveling off right now, or like a little bit of a plateau, and people are feeling despondent about it, when we step back and we actually look at the big picture, we can see that, to your point, it is a long play. We shouldn't be experiencing these like 30% year over year growth that ultimately, buy the property, stay in the property. If you make money, great. But some, like primary residence, in my opinion, is the value is that you're living in a home, and that when you sell it, okay, 5-10 years, you may have it may have increased, but I don't think that this like short-term play of like buying, flipping is going to like stick around, and people's expectations of this year over year, like large year over year growth is realistic.
Well, the flipper is taking a risk.
Right.
It's worked out well for them.
Right.
But anybody who's going in it for the short term is taking an inherent risk.
Right.
There's a market risk, there's a cost risk, there's an expense risk, and you better have a product that sells.
Right.
Right? And you know that if it doesn't, you're going to lose some money.
Yeah.
Or you could be in a tough situation. That's a risk you take. But when you're buying it for a home that your family's living in, it's a long-term play. You need a roof over your head. You got to pay rent or a mortgage. You're going to have to make the decision on what works for you. Now, I'll be the first person to say not everybody deserves to be a homeowner.
Yes.
Right? And the governments and media have made it seem like everybody does. The reality is some people aren't good at paying bills, utility bills, property taxes, maintaining their home, and they would be better off just having the landlord deal with all that stuff.
Yeah, it seems a lot of bills get lost in the mail.
Yeah, so all of a sudden, if you're terrible at renting and you're not paying your bills and your credit score is not very good, do you think it would be wise to get into home ownership where you're being penalized by having to pay a higher rate for your risk?
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. You're already starting behind the 8 ball. And this is something we try to explain to people. Maybe now's not the time to buy.
Right, exactly.
Clean up your credit, improve your score, have a stronger down payment. and they may not like the answer, but at least you're being honest with them.
Right. Yeah.
And that's where I think that's the long game.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? Give them a plan. This is how you do it.
Yeah.
This is how you clean up your credit.
Yep.
This is how you save. This is how you can take advantage of RSP, home buyer
Right.
programs,
Yeah.
tax-free savings accounts, blah, 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 blah,
Yeah.
blah. There's a lot there to unpack, but the reality is if you stay true to what is right,
Yes.
your client will never be in a tough situation or
Yeah.
shouldn't be in a tough situation.
Well, I mean, yes, shouldn't be, as long as they follow the plan.
Stuff happens in life,
Yeah,
right? So health issues, job loss, looking after parents is now a big issue for the sandwich generation. It's a challenge. So you have to understand what your game plan is moving forward and making sure you can hit those milestones.
Sandwich generation, I haven't heard that term. Would you care to explain?
That's that middle-aged person that's dealing with young kids and also aging parents, right?
Okay.
So they're having to juggle their time. I have an 89-year-old dad. He lives alone at home, not too far from here. I have to check up on him.
Yeah.
He's got needs.
Yeah.
Very demanding. When he calls, you pick up the phone because you don't know what's coming.
Oh, I know that feeling.
It causes stress.
Yeah.
I'm lucky to have a sister that we could balance these things off of. So, and we're both nearby, so it works out well. But it's different stresses, right?
Yeah, totally. Well, my father will be 93 next year, so I feel
it's
you. Yeah.
It's tough.
Yeah. Essentially we are his second family, but we're not his second family. It's a whole lot to unpack. But I feel you. The stress of like that phone call every time they phone me and it's not the weekend. I'm like, oh, what is this?
What's next?
Yeah, what's happened? Who's fallen down the stairs this time?
Exactly.
We laugh, but it's so true. Just like,
it's just it's a surprise
Yeah.
buy. So what's in the box? You
Yeah,
know? Like,
right.
what's going on?
what's happening today? So let's talk about your brokerage and your agents. When you have agents coming to you to ask to partner with Al, what qualities are they looking for in an office?
As a new brokerage, my team followed me.
Right.
Norbert's been with me for 20 years.
Wow, that speaks volumes.
Michelle's been with me, I think, 7. And, the people that did follow me, I think gravitated to a style of doing business. I like being honest with people. This is what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
I want to focus on education. I want to focus on social media. I'll try to help people make their way. We're a smaller brokerage. I like being boutique-ish. We may not be for everybody, but what I like is the excitement of social media and what that has in store for the future. And I think it's a new medium that I think we can all benefit from.
Totally. And I really can feel your excitement and your pride in social media. Even when I'm like looking at your videos, when you're talking about it now, it's something that you're really passionate about. And it's...
Zoe, I feel 15 years younger. Social media has that power to make you feel younger and you feel relevant.
Yeah.
Right? And the mere fact that people are interested in what I have to say makes me feel good.
Yeah.
Right? And it makes you wake up in the morning with a purpose. It allows you to give back. And it just is a wonderful medium that is available to everybody at no cost.
Right. I was just about to say it doesn't discriminate based on socioeconomic status.
No.
It's available to everybody, and education is power. And so the ability to understand how to that financial literacy is powerful, and you giving people that key is powerful because somebody may not know how to, because their parents didn't know how to budget, or their parents didn't know how to save, so they don't learn those skills. But having that financial literacy information available to them on a free platform could be the difference between them owning a property or not owning a property, or being successful and being able just to rent a house and pay their bills on time.
Yes.
So never underestimate the value of the information that you're giving out, because it really does break down those socioeconomic walls that were in place for a very long time or have been in place.
What I always find intriguing is mortgage brokers in our space try to always talk about the same things, right? You could only talk about an accelerated biweekly payment so many times, right?
But it's so attractive.
The reality is, and this is the advice my son gave me, Dad, whatever you do, don't talk about mortgages.
Yeah. It's
right?
an emotional thing.
And people say, well, what else can I talk about mortgages?
Yeah.
Don't, because you can talk about everything else.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
Right? So, nobody wants to know portability features.
Yeah.
Nobody gives a shit.
They
They can't think past next week. They're thinking about 3 years down the road.
Like, they want to hear about the person you helped get into a home.
Exactly.
They want
to know challenges, the hiccups, what to look out for, how to save money, how to improve their home.
Yeah, and what you've done to help your clients get these things.
And how to access equity to build wealth through an investment property or something like that. Think of it as on a macro level. The micro, no one cares about. They don't have that attention span to drill down into the minutia of what we do every day. And that's, everybody says, Vince, we really like how you handled yourself on hot property. Why? Because I never used industry jargon. I never used industry terms of GDS, TDS, LTV. Nobody knows what they are other than the people in the industry. So why talk about something that no one gives a shit about?
Yeah, you either can afford it or you can't afford it.
How much do you make? We take a certain
right?
percentage of your income that goes towards debt. That's how it works.
Yeah.
Well, how come I don't qualify? Because you don't make enough.
Yeah, you've bought too many cars.
Well, no, you don't tell them, oh, because we use 3% of your credit card payment. No, they don't care.
Yeah, you need
so
more income.
Simplify things.
Yeah.
And I think if there's one advice, one simple advice I give brokers, don't complicate it. Simplify it.
But when you become a subject matter expert on something, it is so easy to complicate it because you're in the minutia of it. You understand it, the complexity. So it takes a really, it's a special skill to be able to extract the relevant data and provide that and be able to convey it to, the general population. Not everybody has that skill. A lot of people are very knowledgeable, but they don't know how to explain something clearly.
Many years ago, and I can't remember who gave me this advice, and it probably isn't even politically correct to say, but
we can cut it if it's not.
Dumb it down.
Yeah.
Right? Dumb it down to so that the person who knows nothing about mortgages could understand and follow what you're saying.
Yeah.
The minute you start using industry jargon, industry terms, and you lose them, they're gone. People are visual learners.
Yes.
They're not auditory learners.
Yeah.
So use whiteboards.
Yeah.
Use
scratch paper.
To write down what's going on. People look at numbers and they see, oh, I could save $63 on a whiteboard.
Yeah.
They don't know that 10 basis points is $63.
Yeah.
Right? They don't know what a basis point is.
Yeah. Exactly.
Right? Yeah. They don't know what prime minus means.
They just want to know what the payment's going to be every month, right? Just tell me the payment.
So, I think that's part of my job is simplifying things, trying to create a financial literacy environment where everybody comes in and they're learning without any threats of feeling bad about what they don't know.
Yeah, a safe space.
Safe space.
To be comfortable to say, I don't know. And I think that requires courage to be able to put your hand up and say, I don't know, I don't understand. So the fact that you create the safe space that people feel comfortable to say these things speaks volumes.
Empathy.
Yeah, I know. It's
empathy.
It's a
if you don't know what it means, look it up in the dictionary.
Right.
You need it.
Yeah, exactly. It's amazing what a little bit of empathy, how far that can get you. So, give me some of your proudest accomplishments.
My family.
Yeah.
I love my team. I think we're all on the same wavelength as far as what we're trying to accomplish. I like that in less than a year we've been able to establish a brand, establish a presence, and a foundation to build something that we're all going to be very proud of.
Nice.
And I'm really happy that I've helped thousands of people with their mortgages and helping them build wealth through real estate. I really enjoyed my time doing the TV show, although
Yeah.
it ran its course and it got tiring and repetitive. And I really enjoyed that. I'm quite proud of that accomplishment. Listen, it's just helping people. I'm really proud that I have that platform to help.
Yeah.
And I want to try to give back as much as I can, and get people on the right foot to home ownership and achieving their dreams to house their family and provide a bit of a nest egg for them in retirement.
I feel like once you have children, you really understand the value of a home. Not to say that you don't understand the value before children, but for me, at least, it really solidified why it's important to be in a stable home, why it's important to be able to, create something for my child to grow up in, that maybe before I didn't really think it was that important. Like, renting, the house can be sold at any point, but you own that house. And as long as, you stay consistent, you're creating this safe environment for your child. And I think that that's something that, shines through with you as well. Like, you see the importance, how important it is for a family to have that safe home and that home environment, and you want that for other people.
What's interesting about my journey is, and we've only started sharing this with our adult kids now that they talk a little bit more than just one-word answers at the dinner table. But I didn't realize this till one of them mentioned it. We've only known you as the person on TV.
Oh, interesting.
So throughout their whole lives, they've just known me as being Dad's got to go do the show.
Right.
Dad's on TV.
Yeah.
And that's all they've known.
Right.
And it's given them the confidence to do what they're doing.
Right. Yeah.
That anything's possible.
Yeah.
Seeing my middle son with his success in social media, my younger ones performing in music and enjoying it, they've learned that you got to be confident to be successful.
Yeah.
And I think I'm proud that they picked up on that.
Yeah.
And they're doing their thing.
But it's evident that you encourage them and they encourage you. So there's that symbiotic encouragement, which is, very, sometimes a parental relationship is one direction, but you've got this nice, unique.
It's really tough taking advice from your kid. Okay, it's extremely tough, right? It's like, okay, he's doing something right. I better listen to him.
Right.
And he's guided me through this. He's been on a couple of episodes. We did a little budgeting for university students, which went off really well. And I just continue asking him for advice. Nice. And it's a really cool relationship. And all three kids provide me ample insight into the new thing in social media and memes now and all that stuff. So it's all good.
You have to have a certain level of humbleness to be able to do that, because sometimes people's pride gets in the way of being able to. Most
definitely. Like pride is, it could be a problem, right? And being able to manage that is tough.
Yeah.
And like I said, listening to a kid give you advice it's tough to do.
Okay, Vince, so we've learned a lot about you, what makes you tick, what you're proud of, what some of your accomplishments are. But something I failed to bring up, and at this point in the conversation I'm a little embarrassed, but what got you into the mortgage industry? What was the interest?
Well, when I was a kid, I always wanted to be a mortgage broker.
Said nobody ever.
No, I started with Canada Trust.
Okay.
And at the time I was a teller.
Right.
And I was a pretty good teller.
Yeah.
So I got offered the opportunity to move up. And at the time we had to decide whether you wanted to be on the investment side or the credit side.
Right.
So at the time, Canada Trust had brought on David Shilton, the wealthy barber, and Everest Funds, which was their mutual fund, promoted him. And we had all these books, and it was an exciting time to be a mutual fund advisor and a stockbroker. The CSC was something that everybody strived to do, or you could get on the credit side.
Right.
And I didn't know what to do. I was young, 18, 19 years old at the time, going to university, and I went home and we're having dinner. My dad's immigrant, been in this country 30, 40 years, just put his head down and worked. And I remember asking him, and I said, Dad, I got to make a decision. do I go on the investment side or the lending side? And he looked at me, and I'll never forget it. He just looked at me and goes, you're asking the wrong person. Like, I have no idea. The only thing I know is I've been in this country for 30 years, and there's more people that need money than have it.
Right.
And the light bulb went on.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm going on the credit side.
Yeah.
Why chase somebody for money, not having any control of the markets? And if something goes wrong, it's your fault because you're the face in front of them. So the credit side appealed to me, ended up moving over to TD Bank, got promoted to the mortgage group at head office on 28th floor, worked with some marvelous people, had a really good time in the broker unit, and one thing led to another. My best client at the time wanted to hire me to start up his team and build and recruit. And that was Art Trojan, who owned Norlight Financial at the time, which ended up acquiring 4 other firms and starting Mortgage Intelligence.
Oh, okay.
So I got in on the ground floor there, into the broker space, and then, you know what, really enjoyed it, really thought that there was an opportunity here and took it.
Nice. Well, it is one of those industries I find that a lot of people just fall into, and once they're in it and they realize what it entails and what they're able to achieve, they stay forever.
Well, the lending side also gives you that perspective of understanding the decision-making process in files. And listen, when I got in the early 90s at TD Bank, we started off in the mortgage recovery unit. There wasn't a lot of mortgages being done. It was all being collected. So going out with bailiffs to take possession of homes was something that I participated in. It wasn't fun, but it opens your eyes to understand the other side of the business.
Yeah.
And I think this industry and the majority of people in this industry haven't seen that cycle. And it's so important to see the ugly part of it.
Yeah.
Because until you do, you don't understand how bad it could get.
Yes.
And we may be moving there, I hope not, but people need to get that perspective because it is very helpful when you're making these decisions and recommendations to your client base.
Knowing that now, it makes so much sense to me. When we talk about, your morals and your ethics, it makes so much sense why you're so honest with the client. You'll tell them no if they need to hear no. You will tell them that they're in a bad position. This is what they need to do because you've seen it get to that point when somebody hasn't had that honest conversation with that client. So
the only problem is when you talk about that, you date yourself, right? And everybody's like, oh, wow, that's a long time ago. And I think people have just been in this cycle, this very positive cycle of nothing could go wrong.
Right.
And they don't believe it. They don't believe it's possible. And I think now that we're seeing the market and interest rates spike and we're starting to see some cracks, people are listening more.
Yes.
People are now more eager to understand what are the ramifications, what can happen. And I always tell people, don't risk your family.
Right.
Don't risk putting your family in a situation that's not going to be fun.
Yeah, well, exactly. Because, so much to say on that because it's like, it always made me question when I was underwriting and brokers would be pushing through files and it's, right to the limit. And I would go back and I would say, I don't think this is the right decision. Oh, no, they can afford it. The ratios are in line. And
they all eat rice, don't spend any money, and just are hermits.
Yes, right? Never drive anywhere, don't have any children, no pets. So it's really, you've had that perspective. You see the other side of the coin. And I'm going to take an educated guess here that you're not that broker who's pushing that client to right to the limit. You're the broker that's like, we need to be able to afford a lifestyle for you as well as have your house.
We live by a motto, don't make your problem my problem.
Right.
Right? If you don't fit, you don't fit.
Right.
Right? If it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, and waddles like a duck, it's a duck.
It's a duck, totally. So awesome. Well, I really appreciate the time you've given me.
Thank you.
Today, Vince. I've learned so much about you. You're a real sweetheart.
Oh, thank you so much. Listen, I really enjoyed this, and anything I could do for the network, anything I could do for any colleague out there that needs a hand, whether it's introduction to social media, understanding my process, understanding my experience and my journey through it, I'd be happy to share it. If I could help somebody out, I'd be honored to do that.
Thank you. I mean, you are a true example of upholding those sentiment family values, so I really appreciate
Thank you very
saying
much.
that. Thank you, Vince.